Adam Schefter on SportsCenter to look at the NFL football side of this story. And Adam, where does the NFL begin in its process on something like this?
Well, John, it is beginning its process right now because the NFL did not know about this. It was unaware of this particular situation until tonight. And so this is unfolding in front of the NFL's eyes, just as it is unfolding in front of the eyes of everybody else. The NFL will have to gather as much information as it can, as quickly as it can, and try to make a decision. Now, tonight, the NFL has not rendered any comment whatsoever on the Antonio Brown situation. But when you speak to people around football, they have wondered whether the NFL and Commissioner Roger Goodell could go ahead and place Antonio Brown on the commissioner exempt list, which would give everybody time to sort out some of the details of this case, to figure out what did and didn't happen, and then to make a more educated decision with the benefit of time. Again, another person said the commissioner exempt list at this point in time, it's premature to say that, but I think there are other people who think that could come into play here. We'll see how it plays out this week, depending on what the league decides.
Let me quickly follow up on that one because we're making the distinction here between civil and criminal. In the personal conduct policy for the NFL, right, they don't care. If you're a bad actor or have done something, right, they're free to do as they wish.
Correct. And in this particular case, it would buy time for everybody because it's a civil lawsuit right now that don't involve other charges.
All right, Brown scheduled for his first practice with the Patriots tomorrow. A Patriots spokesperson told the New York Times that the team had not heard about this lawsuit or any of the related allegations. How could this affect him? Because there is a business of football with the Patriots and people that watch television and watch football.
Well, John,
how does this affect him getting on the field?
Yeah, what I would say is I think this caught the Patriots by surprise. Like a lot of people, they didn't know about it. Now, there are other people. Let me say, there have been grumbles about this over the weekend. There were people that texted me that something's going on. It sounded fishy, the whole situation. You don't know that it's going to wind up in a lawsuit the way that it did today. But the Patriots are processing all this, reading through everything, and trying to figure out what is the best thing to do from this point on. They have a decision to make here. And Antonio Brown, I think, has used up a lot of the goodwill that he had built up through the years over the course of the last offseason or so. There are people who have questions about him. The New England Patriots are going to have to decide whether or not they have similar questions about him and what they want to do. Do they want to stand by a guy that they don't know, who has a questionable reputation from the last couple of months? Or do they want to go forward with a receiver that they were willing to sign because of how good and talented and dynamic he is? And I think that's something the Patriots right now are sifting through because, as I said, as is with the case with everybody else, they're seeing this for the first time and learning about it for the first time tonight.
ESPN legal analyst Ryan Smith joins us now. And to reiterate here, Antonio Brown is facing a civil lawsuit alleging a sexual assault. As of right now, no criminal charges have been issued. So with that being said, Ryan, what is the legal process for a lawsuit such as this one?
Well, it's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's not as if we're talking about a prison situation or anything like that. This is simply a claim that Antonio Brown sexually assaulted this woman and that she is asking for money damages. Now, when you look at a case like this, the standard of proof, preponderance of the evidence, meaning it's more likely than not that based on the evidence, the conduct that she alleges occurred, much lower standard. So if this ends up in a civil court and this actually goes to proceeding, it just moves forward, then you've got sort of he's saying one thing, she's saying something else, and a jury has to decide basically who they think is telling the truth here.
If you read through the lawsuit, some of the allegations are very disturbing, quite honestly, at times, and that would cause someone, a layman maybe who doesn't have the legal background that you have, Ryan, to ask this question. If the allegations are that serious, why would someone, not to speak for this particular accuser, why would someone file a civil lawsuit prior to anything from a criminal standpoint involving the police?
Part of it is because they can. You, in this country, just because you have something criminal has happened to you, just because you don't go to the police, and we don't know for sure if she did. It just appears at this moment that that did not happen, or maybe she did, or there's no police report, at least at this point, certainly helps us. But as a lawyer, that's what I look at, too. I say, okay, has there been a criminal complaint filed? And then the civil suit possibly comes after. But in some cases, people do file that civil suit first because they say, no matter what happens with authorities or anything like that, I believe that I have been damaged in some way. I believe that I have been wronged, and I deserve to be compensated for it. And what ends up being very interesting in this is when you start looking at the details of the lawsuit, she talks about the different conduct that happened, but she also mentions at one point that she confided in someone who worked for him. It's going to be very interesting to see how this proceeds, because if it actually does go to a civil trial, you have discovery, you have things like that, and those people will be talked to, and that information will shed a lot of light on what really happened in this situation.
And again, Darren Hartner, the attorney for Antonio Brown, says they plan to maybe also pursue a civil suit against her in the opposite of what she's doing to them, because they believe this is all about a money grab. Ryan Smith, always good perspective, man. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
All right.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.